All right, welcome back to ABA exam review and the continuation of our BCBA practice exam series where we're going through another set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like, subscribe, and share. Check out behavioranalyststudy.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack. When you pass your exam, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. A ballroom is reserved to host a conference on applied behavior analysis. Attendees are assigned to different tables randomly. Throughout the conference, the attendees will participate in group activities and discussions with the rest of their tables. If the host of the conference wanted to collect data on every participant in the room at the same time, what would be the most efficient way to do this? So we have a measurement question, and we're trying to be efficient because we have this large ballroom where we have attendees that are participating in group activities. The host wants to collect data on every participant in the room at the same time. That's going to be challenging. And if that is the goal, what should we, number one, avoid? We should avoid continuous measurement. We're not going to be able to take continuous measurement on all participants in the room. So we want to avoid any continuous measurement. Two, since we have a group setting and we want to take data on everybody in the group at the same time, what in particular could we use? A, frequency recording. Well, frequency recording is a continuous measurement procedure, and we're not going to use continuous measurement. So now we have whole interval, partial interval, and a planned activity check. The issue with whole and partial interval, even though they're discontinuous, it still requires you to observe the participant the whole time. And if you want to collect data on every participant at the same time, that may not be possible or likely. So what you're going to have to do is conduct a planned activity check, which is just momentary time sampling for a group setting. You assign Darren, a behavior technician, to a new case that you supervise. You think Darren is a good fit for the client. After Darren meets the family, Darren informs you that he doesn't believe he can work with this family because he does not agree with many of the political opinions he overheard while with them. What should you do as the supervisor? So this is a difficult spot for you as a supervisor, but it's a realistic one. You have a situation where you have a technician, Darren, who meets the family and says, I don't want to work with them because of their political opinions. Now, we're not going to agree with our clients and stakeholders on everything because we just work with too many different people from too many different backgrounds. So when you have a situation where you have a technician who says, I can't work with them because of their beliefs, what is the best course of action for you as a supervisor, keeping in mind all the different variables that might be in play? A, explaining to Darren that he must work the case and that his biases cannot get in the way of service delivery. In an ideal world, this is true. And as the analyst, you definitely need to step up and take the lead on trying to control your biases. But when you have a technician being honest with you, you at least want to take it into consideration before just writing them off. B, meet with the parents and explain that their political opinions are making your technicians uncomfortable. That is not your place at all. That is their belief system. That is their potentially culture. And we need to work within those beliefs and cultures, no matter what you may think about those opinions. It's what they hold. That's not what we're there for. C, evaluate whether not Darren is fit to work on this particular case. Yes, is Darren fit or is he not? Can he work on this case with these conflicting opinions? If he can, great. If he can't, you're going to have to figure something else out. But at least with C, unlike A, you're evaluating all the potential options. Maybe it's room for Darren to grow, or maybe it's just not going to work out. But at least you're evaluating it seriously. And then D, exit the client and provide no services at all to the family. Well, we're not going to punish our client for political beliefs that the family hold. End of the day, every decision we make needs to be in the best interest of the client. That's our main focus. And so your job here is to figure out what's the best way to serve the client. And that is it. If you are attempting to identify the correct verbal operant in a given scenario, how would you determine if the operant was a man or a tact? It's a good little teaching question because when we are thinking about verbal operants and verbal behaviors, there are four things we want to know. What evokes the operant, what reinforces the operant, And then is there point-to-point correspondence and is there formal similarity? If you know those four things about our verbal behaviors, you're never going to miss a verbal operant question. So if we want to determine if the operant was Amanda or attacked, what do we need to do? A, you would look at what evokes each operant. Absolutely. What evokes the man versus attack is going to be different. B, you would look at the formal similarity. The man and the tact, the formal similarity isn't going to tell you a whole lot. The tact is evoked by a nonverbal stimulus, while the man is evoked by a motivating operation. So it's not going to say a whole lot, considering each one is evoked by something that isn't necessarily verbal. And then point-to-point correspondence is the same issue as formal similarity, where both Amanda and attack are evoked by things that you aren't really going to have formal similarity or point-to-point correspondence with because they're essentially nonverbal, right? The tact is typically an object, and the man is going to be a motivating operation. So what you really want to look at for Amanda or attacked is what evokes each operant. Chriselle, a behavior technician, overhears Amanda, a behavior analyst, discussing a client's treatment plan. Chriselle believes that Amanda may be using punishment in a punitive and possibly unethical fashion to suppress the client's behavior. If you are advising Chriselle, what should she do first? So you are in the behavior analyst role. You are advising Chriselle who's a technician, on what to do about her analyst, because she thinks her analyst is being unethical. And the first rule in ethics is if no one has been harmed, is you go to the person first. So whoever you believe is being unethical, you talk directly to them before doing anything else. If you've done that, then you can choose how to proceed. So if you're talking to Chriselle, what should she do first? A, she should speak directly with Amanda about these issues. Yes, when you see a possible ethical violation, you need to confront it at the source before doing anything else. That is number one, because more often than not, that individual probably doesn't even realize what it is they're doing. B, she should avoid getting involved since Amanda is the analyst and she is the technician. That is the wrong way to approach it. Now Chriselle is being unethical. It's Chriselle's job to identify situations that may need to be addressed because she's an ABA practitioner. C, she should inform Amanda's client about what she overheard. She does not need to get the client involved in these matters. This is something she needs to address with Amanda. D, she should report Amanda to the certification board. Only after taking steps like confronting Amanda or speaking directly with Amanda and being absolutely certain should she consider going to the board. But she should not go to the board first in this case. So she should speak directly with Amanda about these issues. In behavior analysis, what is considered the act of delaying gratification by engaging in responses that produce a larger reward on the delayed schedule or in a certain way to change future behavior? All right, kind of just a learning question because I want you to understand what we mean when we talk about self-control and self-management. And self-control is kind of a misnomer in ABA because it's implying we're controlling our behavior when in reality we know the environment is controlling the behavior. So if we are delaying gratification by engaging in responses that produce larger rewards on a delayed schedule to change behavior, we are participating in what we would consider self-control or self-management. So just kind of a teaching question, but I want you to be aware of what we mean when we're talking self-control and self-management. You have a midterm exam coming up that is worth half of your grade for the semester. You only know about half of the material that is required of you. While you are trying to study in the library, there is another group of kids talking loudly. You're unable to retain anything you're trying to learn while this is going on. What concept is most related to this scenario? What is happening in the scenario? What do we know so far so we can identify the concept? Well, we know you have an exam coming up and you need to learn the material because you only know half. But while you're learning, there's this loud group of kids. It's causing you to not retain anything and not be able to learn what you need to learn. So the two options really you need to look at are stimulus blocking and overshadowing. Stimulus blocking, which is also close to masking, is when you know something, you know how to do something, but the presence of a stimulus prevents you from doing it. Overshadowing is when you're prevented from learning something due to that stimulus. So are you prevented from learning or are you prevented from doing here? Well, you're prevented from learning. So you are experiencing overshadowing. You're not being punished for anything, right? Your behavior is not decreasing. There's no punishment going on. And stimulus salience, you could maybe say the group of kids are somewhat salient in the environment, but it's not the issue here, right? The issue is the kids talking loudly is overshadowing your ability to learn what you need to learn. A behavior analyst is working directly with an 11-year-old girl. The analyst is assisting with the girl's science homework when the girl tells the analyst that she feels frustrated when she encounters difficult problems and that makes her want to stop working. How should the analyst approach this frustration? So when you hear something like, I'm frustrated, I'm anxious, I'm angry, we've got to take those into consideration. But we want to take it a step further. We're not just going to treat frustration or measure frustration. That's not going to really be realistic. So if we have this situation where this analyst is told, hey, I'm frustrated, what should the analyst do? A, ignore it as frustration is a private event and unobservable. We should not ignore things like frustration, anger, boredom, all these ideas, right, that are hard to observe, hard to measure, anxiety are part of people. We can't just ignore them. B, ignore it as feelings are not considered in our analysis of behavior. Well, thoughts and feelings are considered private events and behaviors. So the environment is causing the frustration. What we need to do is define that frustration before moving forward. So let's take it and operationalize it. How can we observe frustration? What does it look like? D, provide the girl with easier problems in an attempt to reduce frustration. Well, that might work, but is that really addressing the issue? Or are you just using antecedent interventions to prevent it? That's just preventative. So that's just taking a very shortcut way and not addressing the issue. If we want to address the issue, first things first, operationally define frustration before moving forward. Mindy is part of a trivia team that competes on Friday nights. There are more people on the team than there are spots each week, so the team captain has to assign who is and isn't playing each week. Mindy often forgets to respond properly to the team captain's text messages, which Mindy believes is the reason she doesn't get assigned to play very often. How can we describe Mindy's thinking? A question like this is very close to our goals of behavior analysis, where we have description, prediction, and control. And remember, when we have description, we're just describing what's happening. So in this case, Mindy would just say, I don't get to play each week. She doesn't get assigned to play very often. That would just be Mindy describing what's happening. Correlational is when we're making a hypothesis, right? What does Mindy believe? She thinks because she doesn't respond promptly, she doesn't get a play. So she's drawing a correlation between these ideas. Now Mindy is making a hypothesis. She's making a prediction. C, causational. Be very careful with causational. Even if we can show or demonstrate functional control, it's hard to really prove causation. So be very careful with the idea of causation. And then D, an observation of functional control. Mindy's only made a prediction. She doesn't know for sure what has or hasn't occurred or why it's occurring. How can we describe Mindy's thinking? We are saying Mindy is being correlational. It is Tommy's job to taste sauces of Chick-fil-A, rate them, and then offer feedback on which ones he likes and which ones he doesn't, and the reasons why. Tommy is first presented with a sauce which he tries and then rates. He repeats this until he has tried and rated all sauces. Which assessment does this resemble? Okay, very easy approach to preference assessments. How many items are we looking at once? Single choice, 1. Forced choice, 2. 3 or more, multiple stimulus. In this case, Tommy is going to taste Chick-fil-A sauce and offer feedback. He's presented with one sauce, which he tries and rates. He's then presented another sauce, which he tries and rates. He does it over and over again. So one sauce, one sauce, one sauce, one sauce, one sauce, over and over again. What is Tommy, or what assessment is going on? What assessment does this resemble? Well, clearly a single choice preference assessment. Tommy's getting one item at a time and being asked how he feels about it. It's not forced choice of multiple stimulus because we don't have 2 or even 3 or more stimuli all at once. Very simple preference assessment question. Jenna receives an email from her boss informing her that an important project deadline has been moved up by 2 weeks. Immediately after reading the email, Jenna begins to feel anxious about whether she will be able to complete the project in time. From a radical behaviorism perspective, Jenna's anxiety would not be considered what? So we're thinking about radical behaviorism. And when we think about private events, let's say anxiety, right? Anxiety, we would consider a behavior or a response, right? An environmental response. You have an antecedent, which causes anxiety, and then there's a consequence. So from a radical behaviorism perspective, what would anxiety not be considered? A private event. Well, if anxiety is a feeling, feelings are private events. So anxiety would be a private event. B, a cause of the behavior, which is what we would say is would not be considered, right? Excuse me. So anxiety would not be considered a cause of the behavior, because what we don't want to say is the anxiety leads, right, to flunking a test, because anxiety is our behavior in radical behaviorism. Private events are behavior in radical behaviorism, so they're not the cause of the behavior. Very key point. A response, yes, it's a response and reaction to the environment. And then influenced by the environment, also, yes. What you don't want to do is take a thought or a feeling, which is a private event, and make it the cause, because that is the behavior. So anxiety would not be considered a cause of the behavior. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and check out behavioranalyststudy.com. When you pass, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.